Saturday, July 30th, 2022, reporting from BIDEN Open Border Venice, which is actually artificially hyper-gentrified Silicon Needle Beach, a petri dish for the rest of the country, the California way that our Governor Newsom has been talking about in Florida and all over the country, commensurate with the New York Times, of all publications, saying they don't want the Democrat president they supported to run again because possibly the cataclysmic nature of this Agenda 2030 dystopian bum rush, this arrogant ideologues, a certain very high level of Soros, Bill Gates, and World Health Organization, and now the pontiff, is saying that traditional Catholics who adhere to the faith are following a dead faith. So you don't want to wake up. If you would have woken up 5 years ago in Venice when everybody loved Meth Mike Bonnet, when Nico Ruderman, Nico for LA, that cowardly fake, that demonic faith that looks all like a nice family man, another for-profit Rand Corporation demon obscuring the truth about how this Mobocracy Riot stuff and this big tech takeover, Mobocracy, technocracy, big pharma, how all of this quid pro quo could possibly fit together in a neighborhood where Google is just a few blocks away. That famous Google binoculars building that Chia Day actually had the brilliant Frank Gehry architect design. They tried to get it back from Google. Perhaps not your most reliable search engine. Perhaps as duplicitous, deceptive as Rand Corporation, because when they send a clerical propagandist, Rick Garvey here, another parasitic climber like the Venice Neighborhood Council, we've watched generations of them come and go, these predatory climbers, create this great murder culture. Let me show you the Bank of America, because I don't know what the hell you think you're refunding, but they're my pigeons. I take care of the pigeons and the doves and the crows and the sparrows. Where's the Venice update? Where's the Westside Current real estate blog? Jamie Page, Soledad, Your Sewer, Venice Neighborhood Council, Robin Urez, Jim Rob Thibodeau, who the hell ever's in now with meth baby Melissa Diner. I get upset because these low caste distractors aren't really worthy of critique. They're just dirty Roger Mahoney, lease partner service provider. It takes a Venice. It takes a crack house Jack Hoffman, sex tourism, Snapchat Market Street, Venice Design Series, Thief. Now that's a lot of information. Let me unpack some of it. Venice Neighborhood Council, their former president, Linda Lux, also heralded by the Argonaut real estate blog, heralded by Yo Venice, Sam Crapazero real estate blog, several dozens, if not hundreds, of pictures of heroic Linda Lux, also PR actress anybody could hire, Steve Clare's Poverty Pimp Venice Community Housing Corporation, getting major poverty pimp projects unaccountable by tactic Every single program self-reported, regardless of how much Board Source or GuideStar or National Catholic Reporter or Nonprofit Quarterly or all these things that Nico Ruderman for LA won't look at because he's another predator. Pimp. All these recall Bonin people put Bonin in. And they're still not looking at Horizon Apps LLC, just right around the corner from here, within the eyesight of the Rape Civic Division. I was the biggest police supporter in this zip code and knocked down for it in the streets, and it still didn't back off. Between them and real danger. I ate the chicken. I ate some of that chicken, excuse me. I love them so much, there's 7 of them. And, so these, hello Angel. You know, I actually do really love the people that work for J Gusta, Food and Flour, you know. I'm not anti-big business. There should be fine things, and if it's expensive things, there should be that, but that's a bigger discussion about the pervasive sex drug tourism, which isn't. I'm not laying on these fine people who I respect and adore and who do provide a community service that I support. Surprise, you know, I could support some millionaire even though they're profiting off of indirectly the criminals that have me, a 71-year-old non-criminal, 42-year resident, sort of. I think it's time for me to maybe claim an accomplishment, even though my community service has always been anonymous as a matter of the stuff you see. You don't want to be that person that's in the temple, you know, that big calling attention to yourself, because Mother Teresa and many others know that serving the afflicted and the vulnerable is a tremendous, precious gift to those on the frequency that would care for them, dignify them, love them, hands-on presence, which is not what you get from any of the outreach factors. Outreach people who advertise all the time, like Venice Family Clinic. There's no outreach. People die in the streets, but they're expanding. Their digital media person is, you know, top notch, because that's where the money goes to all these places, especially St. Joseph's. It's coordinated hard left now. Hard left coordinated social media. You try to get an attorney at ACLU or somebody that advertises that they're helping people that are vulnerable, and then you're reporting to the abuser. They're busy expunging felon records and dumping those criminals here to continue to case people. Crack House Jack Hoffman's Rape Hotel boys, getting you used to idiots walking around. Idiots with no ID walking around with paramilitary uniforms, and the first thing they give these kids is handcuffs. We watch them escalate every single call that they've been forced to confront. Vicious, cowardly hotel felon Carl Lambert, Rape Hotel police. In Venice, resistance not gonna. Heidi Roberts, rebels, all these smart, informed people on the board of Venice Community Housing Corporation, this board and the last board, there's not one of them with integrity or class or honesty. That's the most serially violent single address in Venice year after year after year, and that's the opening. There's going to be indictments. There's going to be recouping of tens of millions of dollars of stolen funds. You're going to see the names, the faces, you're going to hear the voices of those that were beaten and stabbed and raped by staff and let in, because that distraction here, these strategized meth encampments, by Crack House Jack Hoffman and Carl Lambert, that's where it started, and we will show you names, dates, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of violent crimes, an empowered, violent criminal vagrancy, absolutely empowered, advertised for, and then drug house Becky Dennison, white private developer, Snow White splain, Pete White, BLM LA, that nauseating predator, Pete White, the guy that comes up, well, we should get extra pay for let me work this. Compassion fatigue. Ba-bum, ba-bum. Compassion fatigue. Get the camera, Becky. Get the grant writer. Because all these people are as fundraisers. Gary Stewart resigned from Shane Goldsmith and Abby Scher's Liberty Hill Foundation. He resigned. How did Gary Stewart, Rhino Records, resign from Liberty Hill Foundation? He was right in Eric Garcetti's personal circle. Look at his tweet, memorializing Gary after his very public suicide. From the parking structure behind where? Santa Monica Courthouse. What was going on in Santa Monica Courthouse? I was being retaliatory evicted by savior of the homeless, drug house Becky Dennison, Steve Clare, crack house Jack Hoffman, hotel felon Carl Lambert, Venice Community Housing Corporation. How many tens of thousands of dollars to Century City lawyers did you taxpayers pay for to evict a non-criminal who's been here since 1980? Probably some of you were up there, some safe team. There's these rape hotel bitches. We had jobs walking on the beach, 3 or 4 of them at a time. Vicious windows. I don't want to get into the details. They don't want you to get into details. BID, Business Investment District, Tara Devine and Crack House Jack Hoffman and Brad Neal's great idea for this now infamous rape murder culture crime rise that can't be denied, and killed drug dealer son of Brad Neal, N-E-A-L, Brad Neal, white private developer, dilettante, artsy, some kind of art club, jazz club, because all these dilettantes want the imprimatur of art, because narcissists, abusers, that's what they can't create. That's what they can't create. And it's also a tactic. Abby Scher said, well, Frank Gehry, minimal heiress, you know. Frank Gehry, he designed my new Santa Monica Museum of Art. I'm a minimal heiress, but I'm going to make a Santa Monica Museum of Art. So I need all these variances that someday I'm going to lay on a drug house Becky Dennison, how really sleazy, white, racist, entrenched, ghettoizing, community-destroying, vicious, empowered, arrogant, criminal, racists get variances for the art. Well, it's a destroyed neighborhood, completely narcotized. John Baldessari, Bob Dylan's rundown studios, Stan Becker, who had Dion DiMucci over to my house, and little Kesha when her mom needed to be elsewhere, you know, to get healthy. And Steve Jones would eat for a lot of stories that happen, because every step I take is rock and roll. Proof up front. Stan Becker Songs, YouTube. That's gotten me retaliatory evicted since Mockingbird Sings. One of the last videos Gary saw, to slide back to that, because I don't have a desk for notes. This is extemporaneous. It's free association, but I'll stay on the point and get back to the point. Gary, he called me for an emergency meeting. It was right in front of Drug House Becky Dennison's Venice Community Housing Corporation on Rose, and he was dead just a few days later. He was in tremendously bad shape. He was evicted. He was tremendously abused, including chemically. John Sharon, Department of Mental Health, we challenged him. on the violent-inducing drugs that Vera Vassal and Nilsa Gallardo and other criminals in his lease partner service provider paradigm. Okay, it's 20 units. There's a suicide cluster. It's 2 deaths at Christmas. Back to Liberty Hill Foundation, Abbey Share Board of Board of Directors of Liberty Hill Foundation, and also many mall heiress for Edgemar Catastrophe. Frank Gehry designed Santa Monica Museum of Art, which is a dead Ben & Jerry's and a paid parking lot and an office building for the elite who want to have an office building by the beach. Okay? And that's the crack house Jack Hoffman trick. No building permits for several months, building high-rise stuff on both sides of Market Street. The Predator, where there used to be art galleries, him and Tiny Bull, Tony Bill, the drunken days of 72 Market Street, that catastrophe. Posing as art. Another dilettante. Another person wanting the imprimatur of art. What the hell is burning? What the hell's burning? Well, you ask the guy that hired the Bank of America for security. If he speaks English, he's not exactly going to give us the update on the detectives that never came to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dozen just on this side huge windows that are machine gun fired in the middle of the night where I park. The cops come here to give me a ticket to make it impossible for me to be legal. Carl Lambert and Jack Hoffman find other ways to kill you. "71 non-criminal years. Those criminals aren't homeless, subjected to the violent terror that they subject others to. I can show you Tom the Rapist's mobile microbox right around the corner. It's okay with the business investment district. I'm going to show you the picture of him being let right in by Timo Morris. Timo Moro. Timimorro. The second residential manager at Horizon Apps LLC, the most serially violent single address in Venice. After the first one, Sidney Zamora, residential manager, video stalked and sexually assaulted 2 tenants and a lot of other abuses that we're going to detail. Yeah, Gary Stewart killed himself. You know, he came over to help those women. I've known him for 36 years. 36 years. We made history together at Rhino Records. I created several dozens of jobs in the real economy, and not just with my association with dear Gary Stewart and the fine, very small population of people at independent Rhino Records on 12th and Olympic back in the 80s. You know, working 40, 60, 70 hours a week for no money because we believed and we loved music and spreading it. And it was often music that wasn't available anywhere else because of Gary Stewart's passion, commitment, hard work, ethic, which we saw in each other. I worked so physically close to him for thousands of hours over several years, even overhearing each other's conversations, because our separate department head offices were really just separated by, you know, those movable things. But that served us as well, you know, because the fluidity and the mutual communication and support, what I was able to learn, and you know, the encouragement I got from him when I couldn't even get it from the owners. He says, as long as I got this position, why aren't we on television? You know, I was told it was impossible. And then the owner, Harold, tells me, who's actually, you know, a guy I respect in a lot of ways. He tells me, well, there's no proof that any review ever really sold a record. I said, well, why don't you put me in another department here? You know, but they did leave me alone. So, you know, I was able to develop a relationship with Johnny Carson and with Dick Clark, God rest both of their souls, and Jim McCauley, God rest his soul, because they knew that we were iconoclastic. I was obviously, look at me, I wasn't, you know, I wore a tie every day to work. I got teased for that. But, you know, Johnny understood. He had a son my age. they knew I wasn't one of these green room rats playing sleaze games and saying rude things about the stars that I was getting to help this artist getting to show up. I didn't even want to say their names. Such lovely people like Angie, you know. Took me to dinner a couple of times and helped my artist just out of the goodness of her heart and her closeness with Mr. Carson and Jim taking me in, you know. And then you get these people the only time in their life they're getting, you know, a #1 record in national exposure again and again and again and again, multimedia, you know, and they're saying mean things about her and they're smiling for the cameras, and I was having none of that. You know, I'm a songwriter, you know, and the successes I had was because of me, and I didn't know how. And to Richard and Harold's credit, you know, they knew that they had an iconoclastic bunch, and we were an iconoclastic wayward product, and they kind of stepped back and let people, for whatever reasons, either irresponsibility or genius or a crack mixture of the both, they just let me rock and roll, and I did. So I'm going busting Boomtown. The gods to put me down. The devil wants to crown. That clown don't scare the king of fools. Cause I'm Deuce's wild. Yeah, I'm the king of fools. But it wasn't me who broke the rules. I'm the king of fools. But when it's your turn to break down in the bad part of town, I'm your rollover Beethoven. Oh, oh, oh. Dealing with feet that are cloven. Oh, 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 oh. And that ain't a metaphor when it comes to Jody Roger Mahoney. And that this pontiff would give him a papal audience along with Eric Garcetti, who gives in Ed Buck's circle, racist torture murder SJW, meth addict and meth Mike Bonin councilman circle. How many indictments on Garcetti's sewer of the city council? And Newsom goes on, this is a California way. We have so many tens of billions of surplus in the economy. It's just these Pelosi crime family, Newsom level, coordinated, hard left media. And you don't get to have a nonprofit that's functioning or a nonprofit career or get to make $400,000 a year like John Sharon before we got him canned, or $400,000 a year like Dirty Roger Mahoney's Spikes model, vicious, racist, cowardly actress, killer, Project Rape Key, women, sexual assault, cover-up stooge, Felicia Adams Kellum, who went to high school, Venice High School with Gary Stewart, who resigned from Liberty Hill Foundation. He jumped from his position in Eric Garcetti's circle. Everybody wants to get a photo op with Eric. All the case managers do with St. Joseph's staff rape, unaccountable by tactics sewer, that Tracy Park's not going to talk about because that's how she gets her funding. Nico for LA Ruderman, that cowardly pest, that parasitic, and all those, you know, beer garden Venice neighborhood council of this generation or the other. Politics is now, you know, let's have a Zoom meeting. And then you get Reed and Davison Project. You know, Fight Back Venice wants to pick and choose. Well, we're in Mark Ryavik, Steve Claire's circle. We actually created this. We totally support the sex drug tourism. We're making a fortune off the artificially hyper-gentrified Silicon Needle Beach property rises. We have locks and guns. We don't give a shit. Some hero, Mark Ryback. Now we're another election cycle. Those idiots, him and Robin and Meth Mike couldn't get it together to even have a debate. The California way. Get ready, rest of the country. Well, the New York Times is waking up. What is that all about? You know, they're saying, well, we know there's going to be a huge backlash, which also has to be handled carefully because there's a lot of rhinos that are more of a problem than the Democrats. I've been one for several decades, and you know, I left the Democrat Party because I saw the blood in the streets, because I know the coroners' names, because I know Crack House Jack Hoffman since 1983, because I knew Bill Rosenthal, because I knew the beautiful, precious sisters of Carondelet, who started that respectful St. Joseph's Homeless Center on one single residential property footprint. Careful, careful each step of the way. And then drug house big. Well, what's happening now? Meth Mike Bonin, okay? Meth addict, major depressive disorder from Clinton, Massachusetts. Comes west, smarmy Ed Buck, Santa Monica Boulevard death rat. But he's a millionaire from Clinton, Massachusetts. He can call mommy for teeth. He goes to some meetings, he meets a digital media guy, and he's gonna have a Kennedy-esque gay marriage at 50, and calling all the press and mark to every IMDb, filthy, vicious slander. Yeah, man, to wonder these Obama phones still work. What I've accomplished with an Obama phone, 2 Obama phones in a 20-year-old minivan. Homeless for 3 years, Mobocracy, pandemic, riot. I haven't had a doctor or medical attention because I have Obama Medicare. So it's forced me to get really healthy by not taking their toxic poisons. How you feeling, everybody? You get your 18th jab? So, Stan Becker reporting from Hunter Biden's Open Border Venice. Artless, Sunny Bach, Art Crawl, felon Carl Lambert and Crack House Jack Hoffman and Mark Sokol, racist, run Venice Music Festival and some other idiot, tie-dyed idiot. They're going to get Barry from Country Joe and the Fish. The guy didn't write or sing and didn't matter and still doesn't. We're going to hire him for another year to tell groupie jokes inside of the Horizon Rest rape room where women are brutalized. To this day, they come here for that freedom. They come innocent, young and vulnerable. And Tom the rapist, Tom the honorary rapist. And Meth Mike Bonin's Westminster Plaza sign right by Vinny Caggiano. Meth baby Melissa Diner in Venice Community and Venice Neighborhood Council. Not a Freudian slip, that is Venice Community Housing Corporation, Linda Lux. And nothing's changed except it's gotten more worse and more deceptive. So that Ursua, media starlet, vicious Orinoco real estate liar, sexual assault cover-up stooge. When you empower abusers and you stay silent with knowledge, like Nico Ruderman, most of you are just, are innocently ignorant or willfully ignorant. And if you have a Tracy Park sign and you think Tracy's your answer, Tracy's the problem. Tracy's the problem. That's the biggest leadership fail I've ever seen in my life. They still don't know where Horizon Apartments LLC is. You could grab Nico Ruderman by his stupid face and shove him right into the camera range of 15 Horizon Apartments LLC, the most serially violent single address in Venice. The suicide cluster, the stabbings, the beatings right in front of St. Joseph's staff. Then all of a sudden the Section 3 cameras you pay for don't work. And you're not going to ask Drug House Becky Dennison because Aleeks and the Land Use Committee, they don't want the tone question. So when you rape and beat the shit out of a woman in Venice, they don't want the tone question because they're Venice resistant. Because they're all, you know, women power. Shane Goldsmith's a woman. Let's look at the women's staff at Drug House Becky Dennison's Venice Community Housing Corporation that were removed by Adult Protective Services for serious crimes and abuses. Department heads, people who gave themselves professional designations, and we've documented all this. Wasn't Burnell Williams a woman? Where is she? Under Maxwell Harris. What's the Maxwell Harris, Steve Clare's asset manager story? Removed. Criminal removed. First-time asset manager from Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. Oh, Stan, you mean to tell me Venice Community Housing Corporation and Hollywood Community Housing Corporation and St. Joseph's Project Rape Key and the other lease partners, that's all one kind of a thing with Crack House Jack Hoffman and Carl Lambert and the Venice Neighborhood Council? Nobody told us. And the Argonaut or the Yo Venice or the Free Venice Beachhead, Mike Bravo didn't tell us. He was telling us about he's like really original and he was wearing a costume and beating a drum. You know, and he almost got his drum beaten by real Latinos on the boardwalk who work and don't live in mommy's house. Another Eric Alberg lawn jockey, like Susie Williams, our Ethel Merman, Gary Fialcoholic's little toy camera baby at Maxine Waters' benefit. You throw these racists a quarter, they'll bend over for anybody. Sonia Greenland Reese, granddaughter of Arthur Reese, Venice of America,